It's a video special from the Mossad files. I'm Dan Raviv, the co-author of books about Israeli intelligence, strategy, diplomacy, with the noted Israeli journalist Yossi Melman, who is, well, right there on the screen from Tel Aviv right now. Yossi Melman, how are you?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Great, thank you. We have written together 6 books, depending if you want to count foreign language editions even more. And the reason we're together on this, talking about Israeli intelligence and the foreign espionage agency, the Mossad, is because Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just nominated a new director for the Mossad. You could say it was time. David Barnea has been head of the Mossad for nearly 5 years. Usually, Mossad directors do serve in that post for 5 years. And so it's an interesting choice by Netanyahu. And that's what I want to discuss with you, Yossi. He went for someone with no experience in intelligence, certainly not in the agency, the Mossad. And that's Major General Roman Gofman. Among other things, I understand he would be, assuming he's approved by the government, which is likely, he would be the first Mossad director born in the Soviet Union. Right? He was born in Belarus and came to Israel as a boy, as a Jewish immigrant. But Yossi Melman, I know you're concerned as you look at this pick that because Netanyahu went for an outsider, right, among other interesting factors, he was ignoring what the current Mossad director, David Barnea, favored, which would be choosing an insider. So what are the main elements at play, Yossi?
Well, he's not the first Mossad director who was an outsider. There were already, out of the 13th Mossad directors, Gofman will be the 14th. Out of the 13th, 5 were former IDF generals. From 63 until 2010, there were 4 of them. 5 of them. 5. There were 5. So that's not that unusual that Gofman has been selected. The problem is, however, that Gofman, first of all, doesn't have any intelligence background, because some of the generals that eventually left the army and joined Mossad had some operational and military and intelligence background. They served in the intelligence units of the army, or they were involved in intelligence operations behind enemy lines in Lebanon, Syria, and other places. So this one doesn't have any experience.
And we'll talk about this strange incident with the teenager and some use of, well, kind of intelligence. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, you see, exactly. We'll talk about it later.
Mm-hmm.
But what is really of concern is that he served as the private military secretary of Netanyahu, and that Netanyahu and that selection of Gofman is part of a tendency of Netanyahu to send his lackeys, people whom he trusts, to be heads of the intelligence community. 2 months ago, it was the head of the Shin Bet, General David Zinni.
So that would be the domestic security chief.
Yes.
And I know that's been a major controversy in Israel. Israelis sort of feel it, right? Who's in charge of domestic security, surveillance? I mean, that's very powerful, the Shin Bet. Okay, so that's one thing that's been controversial all year. By the way, Netanyahu is getting his way, right? Zinni has that job.
Well, exactly, absolutely. And this is on the background of what has been happening in Israel in the last 3 years. The endless efforts, laborious efforts of Netanyahu and his government to control the judiciary, to control the media, and now he's running, actually succeeding in controlling the Israeli intelligence and security apparatus. In other words, we are, and not to mention that the opposition to Netanyahu are already claiming that he's almost half dictator, very authoritative. Israel on the verge of changing its spots as a democracy. So if you add all this, here you have Gofman now, who was very close to Netanyahu. Not only that, it has been rumored that any top office in the Israeli government, especially around Prime Minister Netanyahu, has to be sanctioned and approved by the kingmaker, which is the queen, Netanyahu's wife.
We've written, of course, for the online magazine Airmail. We wrote, in recent months also about her as kind of a Lady Macbeth, or I know the editor of Airmail decided to call her Lady Bibi, something like that, as though she's the power behind the throne, always trying to protect her husband, the prime minister, that he only has loyalists. Now, let's be clear about Gofman. What's the evidence that critics would call him a lackey because he's been working in the prime minister's office? He's the military secretary, which obviously means working with Netanyahu every day, right?
Yes, and he gets all the information which is collected by the intelligence community, by the security establishment, which is relevant to Netanyahu's approval, confirmation, or just knowledge. So he is already very powerful. Powerful broker. He sits as a military secretary. He sits on the top committee, which is called the Varaj, the committee of the heads of intelligence. There are three of them: military, domestic Shin Bet, and external Mossad. So he sits. Then he's privy to all these secrets, and without having any background, relative background, he suddenly was selected against the recommendation of the outgoing head of Mossad, Teddy Barnea. He recommended two of candidates, heads of departments from the agency.
Someone from the inside. By the way, I don't want to forget to ask, though we can't name the two Mossad executives, you might say, who were recommended by Barnea to be considered to be his successor as head of the Mossad. One thing I want to be clear, neither is a woman, right? I think you've written, in the past that women do have important roles in the Mossad and often have been heads of projects, even department chiefs, but it didn't get to the point yet that a woman was being considered to be head of the Mossad.
No, there were a few women, maybe altogether since the establishment of the Mossad in 1949, maybe altogether less than 10 women who had the rank of heads of directorates or departments, equivalent to the rank of general or major general. There are now two or three, I think two, that are still there. They are at if you want, this is the board of the Mossad, 20-something heads of department. There are two of women, but one of them is already leaving. She is the head of intelligence, the head of the intelligence department. But I wrote a few years ago that it's about time that the Mossad would have a woman as it's at the top of the top of the agency, but as it was in the UK, and there are some other countries.
Yeah, well, do you feel that that's impossible within Israel's society, or it is possible? Just this time, Barnea, suggested these two men.
Yes, and before Barnea, Yossi Cohen also recommended two men, and before Yossi Cohen, Tamir Pardo recommended two men. So, and also Dagan recommended two men. So I don't see it's happening. Certainly not in this atmosphere. And by the way, maybe if there is a good candidate and she deserves to be head of the Mossad, she would not be approved by Sarah Netanyahu. Sarah Netanyahu, she is obsessed. She's envious of any female who is around Netanyahu.
Gotcha.
Even
So
the
as long as
makeup.
I got you, as long as Netanyahu's prime minister, you really doubt there'd be a female head of major agencies like the Mossad.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now about Gofman. So we established he's been military secretary to Netanyahu. Now, isn't it true that therefore, in his favor, General Gofman has been exposed to intelligence reports, and even in the brief war against Iran this past June, quick book plug, you and I
Well,
have a current ebook called Target Iran, right? Netanyahu was making key decisions in which the military and the Mossad had to work together in coordination. Gofman must have been exposed to all that.
well, he was exposed and privy to the secret and to the information that was brought before the prime minister, but he had no. Well, look, his disadvantages are A, he doesn't speak English. B, he has never served in any intelligence unit, military. He doesn't have any real managerial skills and he didn't run a major military IDF unit like commanding the Southern Command or the North Command. So he basically was a brigadier general, head of division, commander of division, and then he got the rank of a major general when he was when he became military secretary to the prime minister.
Well, I know it's been written. I know it's been written that he was promoted upward to general in part to clear up what some consider a scandal. So let's go there now, right? There's some trouble between Gofman and an incident in which he was in charge at least of some units in the north, I believe, the Golan Heights, and he decided to use a 17-year-old for some sort of scheme. It almost sounds like an intelligence operation, but you tell me, what was that about?
Well, Dan, this is a joke to call that a military and intelligence operation. What happened when he was head of the Golan Heights division with the rank of brigadier general? His intelligence officer was very much impressed by a young teenager, 17 years old. His name is Uri El-Makiyas, and he was kind of a genius, whiz kid, geek of computers, high-tech, cyber. And he also knew Arabic. So he was with his friends. They were sending all sorts of messages, exchanging posts and so on. And that intelligence officer with the rank of lieutenant colonel was so much impressed by him that he went to Gofman and he said, "We can use this teenager." And Gofman said, "Sure." And what was the purpose of using him? Disinformation. Using his skills of this teenager to send disinformation messages to the Syrians and to the Iranians in the Golan Heights in Syria, and to create havoc and chaos and confusion among the other side. And then, I mean, then these intelligence officers started giving him real information to be used with instructions how to twist it in order to confuse the enemy. So once he was doing it, the domestic security service, the Shin Bet, monitoring networks, realized that there is a young teenager, a young kid that is suddenly privy to secrets. How does he know the secret? So he was arrested by the Shin Bet and accused of being a spy. And he said, "No, I was ordered to do it for Gofman." And they lied. They told Shin Bet, "No, we don't." They asked Gofman, "Is it true?" He said, "No, I didn't order him to be used or to be active, and we didn't give him any information." So he was arrested by first the Shin Bet, then by the police, and he was in prison for a year and a half.
You mean, by the way, you mean this kid from about age 17 to about 18 and a half? That's when he sat in a prison over this case.
Yes, yes. And once it was revealed and he was released, the military, including the chief of staff at that time, we are talking about 2022, the chief of staff and the military prosecutor investigated the case, believed Gofman, and cleared Gofman with a little bit of reprimanded him for not asking an authorization for this solo operation, which was initiated by Gofman.
Yeah, and his intelligence officer, as you say, well, I still do consider that kind of an espionage effort with disinformation, but one that went wrong, obviously. But one thing about that,
no, this is something that I don't think you can define it as a prided, skillful intelligence operation. It was, it was unauthorized operation, which was not really, I mean, they didn't run the agent except that he was here in Israel. And so, and he was the only agent that was asked to do some, cyber operations.
All right. Now we know that in professional work, the Israeli intelligence agencies do sometimes plant disinformation in the social networks and elsewhere, of course, to confound the enemy. But here's why I'm mentioning it, right? That operation went wrong. But I imagine that people inside the Mossad, right, who don't know General Gofman intimately, though he's likely to be their boss starting this coming June, they must wonder, wow, if he abandoned that 17-year-old kid, is he going to stand up for every member of the Mossad who might get in difficulty? Right? I mean, that's a very important part of the ethos of the Mossad.
Well, this is exactly a very good question. Yes, people are wondering if this is Gofman's morality and these are his ethics and values. He is not deserved to run any top office. He should have been stripped of his ranks in the military already. I mean, it's not that he was running unauthorized operation, a renegade operation, if you wish. It's because he lied and throw this teenager under the bus. Simply, denied any knowledge about it. This is a military general who is, not telling the truth. That's very, very scary. Very. There is a reason to be concerned about him. Not to mention that that Netanyahu is selecting people not according to their skills and professionalism, but mainly whether they are loyal to him. Already, Netanyahu was asking candidates in the past, not in this case. In the past, in the last 15 years, he was asking candidates for the Mossad, will you be loyal to me? And I talked to a former head of Mossad, Tamir Pardo, and when he was asked this question, he said to Netanyahu, I would be loyal to the state. In other words, I am loyal to the kingdom, not to the king.
Yeah, that's an issue here in the United States, of course, in the Trump administration, but frankly, even in all administrations, if there's a chance to nominate a new CIA director, sometimes presidents have gone for a professional inside the CIA. Sometimes they've gone for some senator or member of Congress who's close to them. Trump is known for taking, if you will, the Netanyahu approach, which again, here in the United States, Trump supporters say that's fine. Every Republican senator who has to confirm a nomination says the president should be able to have whoever he wants, whoever he's comfortable with. I assume in Israel, you've got those factions as well. Some people who think it's up to Bibi Netanyahu, right?
No, we are a different system. Appointees in the Israeli system are not selected according to their loyalties and political affiliation. In the United States, you can buy, like in the old, I don't know, Middle Ages or early modern times, you can buy your ambassadorship if you donated money to the president. We don't have that system in Israel. It used to be in the first 15, maybe 20 years after the state was established in 48, that the chiefs of intelligence were very close and loyal to the Labor Party, to the labor leaders. But since the mid 60s, maybe early 70s, we stopped it. We moved to a more mature, system in which all these, especially in the military, especially in the intelligence community, the top echelon is apolitical, and no one is asking about his political views. They may have views. So there is a great example of Menachem Begin. When Begin became a prime minister in 1977, that was the first prime minister from a right wing, a conservative prime minister. The heads of the Shin Bet and the Mossad went to Begin and said, "We submit our resignation. If you want, you can replace us." He said, "No, we have to maintain a continuity in the administration. You are professionals. I don't know your political views, and I don't care about it." These were different times, and it's Begin who was the leader of Likud. Netanyahu is still considered to be a leader of Likud, but he's completely broke from that tradition of conservative politics.
Yeah, well, I got you. He has his own personal style. Again, as in America, many people feel that Trump isn't your typical Republican. It's all Trumpism. All right, I got that. I don't want to forget to ask about another prime minister from history, and that would be former General Ariel Sharon, prime minister in 2002, had a chance to nominate a new head of the Mossad, and he went with an outsider. He went with a general that he admired, Meir Dagan, who ended up serving not just the usual 5 years, but 9 years as head of the Mossad. And many people, and I think in much of what you've written, Yossi Melman, you also have praised Dagan, and you realize that he changed things. He made the Mossad more operational. There was, the general remark that Meir Dagan, had a dagger between his teeth and brought that to the Mossad. So don't give up on General Gofman being an outsider. I don't know what parallel you might make there.
Well, I told you from the outset, the problem is not that an outsider was nominated. Already we had 5 generals, including Dagan, that was selected by Sharon. Furthermore, that Dagan joined the Likud party, and he was the election day manager of the Likud party in 2001. So that's not the problem. That's not the obstacle to bring in an outsider. Of course, it's a slap in the face of the 7,000 Mossad workers and employees, and obviously the top echelon of the Mossad, that the prime minister don't think that anyone among the ranks is eligible, is fit for the top job. But that's a different question. But the difference between Dagan and Gofman was that Dagan was very close to Sharon indeed, but he also served under other prime minister in previous capacities as the leader or commander of the counter-terrorist office in the prime minister's office. He worked with Shimon Peres, and then he worked with Netanyahu, and then he worked with Ariel Sharon. So he served other prime ministers, and Sharon didn't ask Dagan, "Are you loyal to me or not?" as Netanyahu has the tendency to ask, which is obnoxious. It's like we are in an authoritarian regime that you ask such a question.
All right. I mean, there's a high chance, not to, be mired in history too much, that General Meir Dagan was, if you will, a loyalist to General Sharon, or at least they admired each other. But you're saying it turned out and it's very clear, looking at the late Mayor Dagon's career, that he was loyal to the state, that he wanted to defend Israel, and he worked for various prime ministers as time went on. You've got your suspicions about Gofman, and I can't help thinking it's because you have so many suspicions about Netanyahu.
Yes, of course, because he's, in a way, you don't, is at least half of the Israelis don't trust Netanyahu anymore and don't trust his judgment that any decision he made is surrounded with, I would say, very dubious decision thinking with what are his motivation. This is the suspicion that Netanyahu is sticking to power because of political and personal interest and because of his corruption trial. So yes, we have enough evidence in Israel to show that Netanyahu that he should be suspected as far as the democracy is concerned. So Gofman was suddenly pulled by Netanyahu to be the next head of Mossad after he already controls the Shin Bet, the domestic security service. It's obvious. You don't have to hate Netanyahu or to be anti-Netanyahu to reach the conclusion that Netanyahu wants to change the fabric of Israeli society. And along the way, the Israeli democracy, which is already being eroded.
All right. Now we know, and you've of course written for years, that there have been occasions in which the head of the Mossad, sometimes bringing along some of his experts, goes to see the prime minister. It could be Netanyahu, it's been others, and disagrees with the prime minister. That the prime minister either does or does not want to attack a nuclear reactor in Syria or targets in Iran or some other secret mission. And the PM has an idea, he'll do it, he won't do it, and the Mossad disagrees. Again, we don't know whether Gofman will have the guts and the independence to be an independent voice to the prime minister, whoever the PM is, right? We just don't know yet.
We don't know. Let's hope that he will be independent, that he will grow a new spine.
And Yossi, even in his job as the military secretary to Netanyahu, I mean, there have been incidents kind of on the edge of dirty tricks in which General Gofman's been involved, right?
Right, indeed, Dan. In his capacity as military secretary to Netanyahu, he obtained through another military guy secret documents during the war in Gaza, which that showed that Hamas is benefiting from the protest movement. That was not a secret that that they follow the protest movement against Netanyahu and the demand to release the hostages, and it played into the hands of Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza. So there was a document that obtained by the military intelligence, and someone without authorization from the military intelligence, someone who served there, brought the document to the attention of Gofman. Gofman was sitting on this document for 1 month. Then he showed it to Netanyahu, and without informing his superior, which is the chief of staff. Don't forget that he's a military man, and his superior is the chief of staff. He's a general. So he showed it to Netanyahu, and Netanyahu ordered one of his aides to leak the document to a German newspaper. Why? To show that the protest movement betrays Israel, that they are like, a traitor from within, and that they help the enemy. And that was intentional by Netanyahu in order to create confusion and to split the protest movement.
Obviously, you're saying obviously a political move, and General Gofman was involved in helping Bibi Netanyahu do that.
Yes, And now one of Netanyahu aides and another junior military officer are facing trial for leaking a secret document. Basically, it's like espionage, although it went to the media. We have
Gofman's on the edge of that, and if you will, yet another occasion in which he's getting away with it, right? He's involved with something kind of dirty,
which shows that Netanyahu trusts him. Once he performed a dirty trick, maybe he will continue to perform dirty tricks when he was in the Mossad. Now, the Mossad is a powerful organization. You know that you can, I mean, they know so much secret that can be used for political reasons, for political motives. Not to mention that, the Mossad, as we wrote together, Dan, in his capacity as a parallel second Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a secret one, is meeting with foreign leaders, and they were negotiating the release of the hostages via Qatar and via Egypt. So the Mossad now to leave the Mossad in the hands of someone who is past is not full, his past record is problematic. I have my concerns.
Yeah, you are concerned, and here's something that might be minor, but I picked up that you said early in this conversation, Gofman doesn't speak English. In modern Israel, that would be rare, and I wonder if he does speak English with a deep Russian accent. By the way, I understand that when it comes to the sometimes secret contacts with Vladimir Putin's government, Gofman would be very effective. There'd be a Mossad director who easily speaks Russian. But the key liaison relationship for the Mossad is the United States, being close to the CIA, as well as the British and others. And those meetings are in English. And often the Mossad director has been very debonair and speaking, excellent English with a bit of sometimes an English accent. Gofman, I mean, you're pretty sure? No English, a little English. Does he have time to get better? What do you think?
He has a very weak control of English. Let's put it mildly. Of course, I mean, he went to school. He went to during the military. He had some, I assume, some English background education. I don't think it's a major obstacle. Of course, it would. You can come to a meeting with the CIA director with a translator. Surely it's kind of a handicap because it would not enhance a smooth chemistry between the two of them. Yes, but that's on the margins of the problems that Israel is facing, and now with the decision to have a new head of Mossad. However, I want to add one sentence that Gofman is a very brave soldier, very brave officer. He fought in Israel's wars. He rushed on October 7, 2023 to the scenes around Gaza and fought there even before the IDF officially started moving in, and he was wounded there. So he's brave, he is decorated, but is it enough to be the head of Mossad? I'm not sure.
Okay, and just a very brief finish to this. In the United States, a nominee for the CIA director or the director of national intelligence has to go through congressional hearings, has to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate. You have some process in Israel for that, something like that.
Yes, it's not by the parliament. There is a committee led by a former Supreme Court justice that has to confirm candidates for top offices in the administration, including the head of the Mossad, the head of the Domestic Security Service, and other organs of the government. So he would go there, and they would ask him questions. The public can submit reservations about Gofman, if there are any. But judging from the past, especially with General Zini being selected by Netanyahu and approved by this committee, most observers believe that the committee will confirm him.
All right, meaning that Roman Gofman would be head of the Mossad this coming June. Well, we'll stay after it. It's always a delight to speak with you, my friend, my co-author on 6 books. Some of them are behind me right now in my office in Washington, D.C. Yossi Melman, thanks for taking the time from Tel Aviv. It's just a delight to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. It's my pleasure to be with you on the Mossad Files.
Please tell your friends about the Mossad Files audio podcast once a week, the Mossad Files with Dan Raviv. Also, I should mention that with Yossi Melman, we keep writing books together. Our latest is an e-book only, very affordable. It's called Target Iran, telling how the Mossad penetrated Iran with a lot of agents. And specifically this past June, the Mossad had agents, non-Israelis, by the way, inside Iran, clearing the airspace for Israel's Air Force. Also, our book, you can see it over there, called Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. It's a history of the Mossad and the other Israeli security agencies. Thanks very much. Again, you can hear me on the Mossad Files. Hope you find us on all the podcast platforms. I'm Dan Raviv. Have a great day.